So Paul had money. Abraham had money. And I'm the last person who you will ever catch preaching a health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. I don't. So more money is not always the answer. It's dink beter. Okay? I just want to tell you my route. A friend of mine who loves the Lord and serves the Lord, he says to me, hey, have you seen this thing called Bitcoin? Have I got, no, everyone's like, what? He says, Bitcoin. I'm like, wow, what's that? He says, well, you download this Luno app, and then you buy this thing. It's called cryptocurrency. You got 21 keys. If you lose the keys, you lose your money. And I was like, what's this? And I'm like, but I'm in for 500 because it can become 2,000. Okay, dalk het ek bietjie gedobbel. Sorry. Ek noem dit nou maar net. At that moment, I might have thought, okay, it sounds like a... And that is just dobbel geklink nie. Because he told me this is the next internet money. I was like, okay. So I buy my first 500 rands worth of Bitcoin, and I started watching YouTube videos about Bitcoin. And then I started watching videos about gold, and then about what is money, and what is economic. And I'm like, so this is how an economy works, and that's an asset, and okay, that's a liability, and that's the definition of an investment. And this is what money used to be: shells. Money used to be feathers. Some people used to use stones as money. Then it became like copper and silver and gold. And now there's this thing called the internet. And on the internet there's no money, but now there is. It's called Bitcoin. And I was like, this is all making sense. And my understanding of money, politics, economy started to broaden. So all I felt God was doing, He was starting to educate me in something that I actually knew nothing about. And now I'm at a point where I see the benefit of understanding finances within your ministry. Because how many times have you heard of pastors running away with money from the church? My first church that I was involved in, man, the pastor's husband wanted to do a dodgy insurance deal with mats that I've got donated for the church. And I never understood all the stuff and things like that. All I knew is I had to run as far as I could from that situation, and I did. But all of a sudden, I'm like, I get it. We need to train pastors how to work with money. And missionaries always have this mentality of armsadige bedelaars, poor beggars. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be that. I will beg for you. If you say beg, I'll beg. But I don't want to do that. And Roy has taught me a very nice thing. He said, he won't ask for himself, but does not ask you for someone else. I can do that. I can phone people and say, hey, I need meat for the Bible school. Are you in? I can do that. But for myself, I struggled with it. Maybe it's pride, but it just didn't fit with me. And I think that's when the Lord gave birth to this whole thing. Let's start teaching missionaries to work with money. Let's start teaching missionaries how to handle their finances better. And how to start to generate and start their tent ministries. Because who used to do that? The Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul had these tents. When he done tent, he had this, it was those tents in the marketplace, it shot out like that, and then they'd have all of their fruit underneath. He had a tent business. And Paul says, he's like, you know what, I can ask you for money as a church. I can ask you to, hey, come contribute to my mission work. He says, but I doesn't, because I can pay my own way and I can pay for the others as well. So Paul had money. Abraham had money. And I'm the last person who you will ever catch preaching a health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. I don't do that. So I had this conflict in my life of, are you starting to compromise, boy? Are you starting to become one of those pastors that are just about money? And I had to figure that out for myself. And I came to the realization that for the work we do and the Great Commission, and as missionaries, we need money to do the job. Petrol costs money. Plane tickets cost money. Does God give? Yes, He does. Has He given you an intellect? Yes, He has. Did Paul make tents? Yes, he did. Are you telling me that no one blessed Paul at all? Of course they did. There were people who would have blessed Paul. But he could also look after himself. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the hybrid. As mense wil gee. But I want to be able to use what He's given me and share that with other people. And this is how this was birthed. This is not some technical get-rich scheme, okay? It's not a pyramid scheme I'm going to sell you now. I'm also not a financial advisor. As a matter of fact, it's very simple. It's just a couple of little principles that I apply to my life that I see has changed my life. And Marvin, I want to ask you something. And I just want to ask you, ons is close, maar I want you to be honest. What I've taught you about finances so far, as a young man of 23, has it made a difference in your life? Definitely. Okay, so there's a young guy in your position. Remember, I'm not talking to business. I think there's businessmen here who are very rich and wealthy and know how this stuff works. I'm talking to us who ons wat nie regtig baie weet nie. Right, let's go. It's not a cause to glorify money and wealth over your relationship with God. It's not that. And I start with that because I'm not like that. We are always to seek first God and His kingdom. Have we got that? We're all good with that. This course is directed at helping you understand and manage your money better and more wisely than you did before. So if you walk out of here today and you can save 10 rand more than you did before, then I'm cool. Then I've almost done my job, ne? Okay. I'm not a legal advisor or financial advisor, and these are just my opinions and points. That's my disclosure. Okay. Anyway, number one, the Bible doesn't promise wealth. Okay? There is no promise in the Bible that says that a Christian will most assuredly, definitely always have the best job, will always have the wealth, will always have the freedom, and will always be debt-free. I know Christians who are born again who are in debt because they did not work wise with their money. Okay? I know Christians who love Jesus who are unemployed. I know Christians who are not rich who love Jesus. One verse is sometimes cited. You remember that verse? Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. That verse gets used a lot when it comes to money. But I just want us to look at that verse a little bit better. In context, this verse was directed specifically to Israelites in exile in Babylon. That's when it was written and for who it was written. And we need to consider that. It doesn't mean it doesn't apply to us today. Every scripture written back then has application for today. Okay? So let's get that out the way. But the original Hebrew word translated as prosperity there, it can mean peace. It can mean completeness. It can mean safety. It can mean health. It can mean satisfaction or blessing. And finances. It can mean many things. So we can't just use that verse for money. That's what I'm trying to say. God's faithful people may be rich or poor. A lot of my friends in Zimbabwe are poor. A lot of my pastor friends who are born again in Zimbabwe are poor. But oh well, they're rich with the Spirit. They are rich with the Spirit. You see, remember that worldview? You must make sure you got the right glasses on when you speak of wealth, because spiritual wealth is more important. Matthew 27:57, and when even was come, there's a mistake there. When evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, and also himself was Jesus' disciple. So there we see, there's one of Jesus' disciples who was rich. He was rich. Proverbs 22:2 says, the rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord made them both. It's interesting, eh? Jesus says there'll always be poor people. Wow. Jesus denied, listen carefully, Jesus denied that wealth is a sign of God's favor or that poverty is God's punishment for sin. Have you got that? Jesus denied that wealth is a sign of God's favor. No, man, there are rich people who hate God. Okay? And that poverty is God's punishment. That's also not true. You know where it's shown most clearly? The parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Part of the reason the rich man ended up in hell was because of his hard-heartedness towards the beggar Lazarus. His great wealth was obviously not a sign of God's favor. That's easy to understand, eh? The beggar Lazarus ended up in heaven, although he was impoverished, poor as a man could be. Poverty was obviously not a sign of sinfulness or foolishness in his life. You see that? Are you guys with me? Okay. I want us to look at this. Wealth can be dangerous. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world, yet he forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Guys, I've seen it, man. I've seen it 2 times in my life. I've seen it 2 times already in my life, in one family. In one family. I've seen how money takes normal, humble people and changes them. Hulle verander. They change, and we need to be careful. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Wow. Guys, the Bible speaks about money and warns us. So when it comes to money, you see, I'm starting with kry jou kop reg, get your mindset right when it comes to money. Another one, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy it and where thieves can break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Our biggest investment in our lives needs to be our spiritual investment. Dis waar jy nommer 1 belê in jou geesteslewe. We got that? Now, let's start thinking. The key for today's Christian is to know if God has given you basics of what you need to live and flourish as a human being. If you have the basics to live and flourish as a human being, then you are wealthy in a large degree. Wow, does that make sense? When I look at my friends in Zimbabwe, they have enough to live and flourish as human beings, and they are wealthy. If I say to them, try, how are you? My brother, it is going well. My brother, it is well with my soul. Wealth in the sense of being materially equipped to pursue a fruitful life. You know what? You don't need much to pursue a fruitful life with God. That's what I'm trying to say here. Jy het nie baie nodig nie. Work hard and become successful in life, but don't think of yourself as better than others because of your material wealth. In Deuteronomy 8:18, Moses reminds us, watch what Moses says. He says, but remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce what? Mooney, remember in the previous thing I said, everything that's good comes from God. So never ever get to a point, as jy nou begin geld maak, om te dink, maar dis ek in my eie krag. It's never been you in your own power. It's been the intellect that He has blessed you with. It's been the decisions that He has helped you make. Don't put your hope in your wealth. Proverbs 23:5 says, cast but a glance at riches, and they're gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. A good job or business and its steady earnings can be here today and gone tomorrow. But who is eternal and what is eternal? Jesus, man. Okay, dankie sis, jy is wakker, mooi. Start here. Be rich in good deeds. Okay? Right, het julle dit. Where do we start first? Be rich in good deeds. Okay? It's first your relationship with God. I just said that in the previous slide. And now it's be rich in good deeds. A good deed is a free and voluntary act of service towards another person. Doing good deeds for others is the fruit of your salvation. In other words, as jy saligheid ontvang het, sal jy begin goed doen vir mense. Where do we find it? In Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's workmanship. You've been created in Christ Jesus to do good works. Okay, you following me? Be generous and willing to share. Generous people build organizations. And they contribute to the success of others. This is the first book I read on finance by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's the first book. It's not a Christian book. It's not a Bible book. It's a secular book about money. That was the first book I read concerning money. But I learned a couple of interesting things from this book that I want to share with you and principles that you can apply. Number 1 was manage your money. Number 2 was make your money work for you. In other words, you don't work for your money like a slave. Your money works for you. I was like, wow, what does that mean? I'm going to need to read up about that. Become financially intelligent and literate. Yeah, I was busy with that. Take calculated risks. What does that mean? Train your mind to look for opportunities. Sounds like something I'd like to do. Focus on assets over income. What's an asset? That's where I was. Maneuver your thoughts. Okay, well, let's look at that. Manage your money. Okay, are we ready? Many people are able to make money, but not everybody learns how to manage it properly. Okay, there's a difference. It's one thing to make it. It's another thing to know how to work with it. Okay, you got that? By enhancing your savings and tracking your expenses, you can become aware. So in other words, if you're saving more and watching what you spend, you can become aware of your spending patterns, and you can ensure that you will have more money coming in than going out. Okay? And if you do that, you'll become richer. Oh, I feel guilty when I say that. I become richer. It feels weird saying it. But you will. You will. Many people make the mistake of thinking that earning more money will solve their financial problems. No, I think it actually increases. It's not true. Management is essential. I know people, they're earning 4,000 Rand a month. They're like, I need more money. Then they get 6,000. They get a lacquer increase, they get 6,000. You know what's the first thing they do? They go to Truworths or Markham's or Edgar's and they buy clothing on debt. And they take their living expense that was terrible, they're earning more money, and they up their living expense. You don't do it like that. If you were earning 4 and struggling and you're now earning 6, you start using the extra money to get rid of the debt. Okay? Makes sense? So more money is not always the answer. It's dink beter. Okay? A main point that Robert Kiyosaki makes is that the lower and middle class work for their money, whereas the wealthy have money work for them. Okay, you got my attention, yeah? Because I grew up middle class, low middle class, upper poor class. Yeah, we were upper poor class, man. Learn how money works, then work out how to make it independent from a paycheck. So, okay, hang on now. So if I get money, I can actually take this money and I can do something with it so that while I'm still earning a paycheck, yeah, that money is making me more money and I'm not doing anything. Does that make sense? Now your money is working for you. So if you invest the money and it's earning an interest, I'm not even looking at it. I'm still working for my salary, yeah, but that thing's growing over there and it's earning me money, passive income. That's what we call it. Passive income is that secondary income that you're not actually focused on doing. It's not your real job. It's the thing that's happening while you sleep. You're making money while you're sleeping. We'll get there, okay? So make money work for you. I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking into that. Become financially intelligent and literate. What does that mean? It means begin om slim te raak oor geldsake. En lees meer. That's what literacy is. Read more. You know, I want to be honest with you. I have read thousands of articles, pages, essays on finance in the last 3 years. I have watched thousands of hours of YouTube videos. I will listen to podcasts on finances. Thousands. And if you're not going to put in the work, a lot of people say, oh yeah, hy het geld gemaak because it was just a good investment. No. Do you know how long I had to sit and listen and focus and make a decision? I've got 10,000 Rand now. Am I going to put it into this or am I going to put it into that? Is it going to work there for me and make me money or is it not? That takes research. That takes time. It takes effort. Okay? So you've got to put in the work to educate yourself, to become financially intelligent and literate, to understand it. And I still don't. Daar's nog steeds terminologie, vra vir oom Frans. Ek het gestaan met hom daar. Ek sit en luister vir oom Frans and he's explaining to me trusts and things like that. And I'm like, I've got to go home and go read up what a trust is and all it, because I'm just not clever with this stuff. Does it make sense? I'm not standing here saying I've arrived. I'm just sharing my journey with you so far. Kiyosaki believes that the cause of so much suffering is due to a lack of financial education. That's true, because we're not taught this stuff in school. My mom, my pa het my nooit geleer. My parents never taught me. Listen, yeah? if you start saving from a young age, this is how interest works. This is compound interest. It compounds. It's a compounding thing, and it will be more at your older day. I never knew that. If I knew then what I know now, if someone just taught me the difference between an asset and a liability, my life would have already been different. Mark that sin. Okay. Calculated risks, what's that? You know, there's going to be times when you need to take risks with the money that you have. I'm going to use some examples here from our personal life. We make these jungle gyms. A friend of mine serves the Lord. He's a policeman. His wife's a teacher. They have a business called Bundu Kids, which makes jungle gyms. And I ordered a jungle gym. Remember that photograph of the jungle gym under the tree? We ordered that one, bought that one. I paid it off. I was so poor, I had to pay it off over like 20 months. Okay? And I said to him, Skulk, you can be glad that you're my friend and a Christian because I like this business, these jungle gyms. I honestly would, if I saw this and I never knew you, I'd start making jungle gyms now. And you know what? When his wife said she wants to go back into teaching, and he decided he's sick and tired of the jungle gyms, he phoned me and said, hey, do you want to buy this business from me? I was like, huh? And instantly I'm like, what's this going to cost me? And he's like, I'm not going to charge you anything except for the stock on hand and the machinery, because it's like big saws and stuff. I said, like, how much? He's like, 50,000. I'm like, whoa, 50,000. You know, God does do miracles and he's done awesome things for us, but it's not always when I'm like, hey, I need 50,000, and it comes like that. And I prayed and it wasn't coming, and then I had to make my first calculated risk. I said to André, I want to sell your car. We've got the bakkie, we've got the combi, I want to sell your car so that I can buy this business. That was my first major calculated risk with big money. 50,000 rand, big money. And Bundu Kids had a turnover of about 100,000 a year, and it's just exploded. We changed the website, gave it a Facebook page. It never had a Facebook page, and God has just blessed that business in the last 4 years. We've had it for 4 years. It has just blessed, and it was the first changing point. Okay, we got that? So 50,000 rand on a car that was depreciating in value, liability, taking money out of your pocket, was put into something, a business, which had really low expenses to run. I didn't have to rent building or property, anything. We make it on the farm, and it became a huge asset. And I've made that 50,000 back over and over and over and over again. The next thing that happened as a calculated risk is people kept on phoning and saying, do you want to help drug addicts? Can you help drug addicts? Now, we've always taken in people that have been addicted to substances. But it came to a point where I was like, okay, maybe I need to make this official, but I'm not going to do it for free. And I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to study, as part of my degree, I'm going to do my master's degree in addiction. And I said, but if I'm doing all the studying, the first month that the people pay, that money will come to me. And every month after that will go to the ministry. Now, that was a calculated risk because now I'm bringing more drug addicts into the school, but at the same time, I realized that it could assist us financially, especially on the first month. And I took a calculated risk. And it worked because now there was more income and people were coming to faith and coming free from drugs. Amazing? Okay. The third one that happened was my brother-in-law. He owns a bunch of properties in Kimberley. I'm already busy as it is. And he says to me, I need someone to manage the properties because the lady has died that used to do it. And I'll offer you a good salary, and all I want you to do is manage these properties. And I was like, I can't do this alone. And working for my brother-in-law, that's a calculated risk. Want familie en besigheid kan, not always, but it can niet. And he is temperamental, okay? And so am I. And I said, but let's go for it. A calculated risk that, watch how beautiful it turned out. I managed to pull Cecilia, who's my PA, into the business, and she gets extra money every month. And Regan, who built the Bible school, I said, Regan, we're not going to pay plumbers and electricians and builders out there. We're going to bring you in. And all of a sudden, Regan's maintenance business kicked off as well. You see that? God just taking one thing and lifting up a whole bunch of people. Some of our students, when we replaced a roof in town the other day, the yellow Westerkant van the dak, we replaced. And we had a bunch of students on there. They all get paid for that day's job. It was just a blessing upon blessing, but a lot of calculated risks. Train your mind to look for opportunities. Look for creative solutions to any money problem. I've already told you about Marvin's tire business. Marvin, ek hoop jy gee om nie, but when Marvin got to me, Marvin het gesukkel finansieel elke maand. And now, Marvin is able to bless and sow into other people's lives. Our chickens, with the whole COVID thing, we're like, we're going to farm with chickens. And then one thing I want to talk about is an ethical thing. Looking for opportunities does not mean that you see rich people walking in here and sowing into this ministry and then phoning them after hours and saying, hey, I'm about to start my own ministry. Can you support me as well? You see what I'm saying? I just need to throw that in there because that happens sometimes in the ministry. And as Christians, it's unethical. We can't when we see, and I mean that when we're missionaries or people are supporting your ministry and you're training up people and dan kom hulle en hulle probeer julle fondsmense steel van agteraf. That it doesn't work that way. So that's not an opportunity. I was then taught how to focus on assets over income. In other words, to concentrate on your net worth rather than your monthly salary. In other words, to acquire things that make you money, like stocks and bonds or your own business, to earn you money as opposed to buy liabilities that cost you money. So I learned, okay, assets are something that's putting money into your pocket and liabilities are something that's taking money out of your pocket. Okay? So if you carry on, we'll go on. I then learned how to maneuver my thoughts. If you say, I can't afford it, then you prevent yourself from even thinking of various possibilities. So I had a dream that I could start taking my wife every second month just away. I was noem dit 'n wegbreek, a breakaway. Because we've been in the ministry for all these years. We've got 3 of our own children. We adopted another 2 children. It's tiring. And we live, if this is the hall, we live at the tuck shop. Our house is closer. Royas should have built first. I would have made my house a bit further as well. But we live right there by our school. And I was like, Lord, I want to take Andriette away at least every second month. Just Clarence or just to get away. But then it was like, but how are you going to do it? If you want to start doing things like that, you need to create another stream of income to do it. And that's what that means. If you say, but I can't afford it, well, then that's it, full stop. But if you say to yourself, okay, I want to do that, how am I going to do it? You see, then the brain starts working. Okay? So if you have that dream, if you have that goal, stop saying, how am I going to do it? Hey, make it happen. Die Here het vir jou geseën met 'n brein. Make it happen. Do something about it. Instead of asking the question, how can I afford it? This acts as a feeder for your brain to churn up the possibilities. How can I do it? Maneuver every negative can't do thought into a can do healthy attitude. Now, let's go to some great tips. Number 1, no debt. I don't have any clothing accounts. I have no clothing accounts. I don't have an Edgar's account, a True's account, a Markham's account. I don't have something like that. If I can't buy it cash, I don't buy it. Okay? All right, so that's that. But I'm not wealthy enough to walk into the garage and buy a car for 500,000 cash. I'm not there yet. But I'm able to buy a car and pay the car off because I don't have all this other rubbish. Does that make sense? Okay? So I believe that all debt is unhealthy. But if you are or you must go into debt, there are wise ways to do it. Okay? We got that. Okay. Have an emergency fund. I love Capitec. We've got bank accounts at different banks, but I love my Capitec account. And the reason I love my Capitec account is because on the app, you got your main account where the money comes in, and then you open up 4 accounts beneath it. And the first account that you have there is called the emergency fund. That's the first one. And the emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your salary. Have you got that? That's what you're aiming for. Verwag jy dat jy nou net moet ingooi nie. Some people can, others can't. But you want at least 3 to 6 months. I know people who've got a year's worth of salaries, 12 months salaries in the emergency fund. Now, how much pocket money do you get? 500 rand. I want you to practice the principle now. If you get 500 rand pocket money a month here at the school, how much must your emergency fund be? Ons het 'n probleem. Okay. If you're getting 500 rand a month, your emergency fund is 3 months worth of a salary. Jou salaris is mos 500 rand 'n maand. Dis jou sakgeld. 1500, is ek reg? Okay, so that's what you want to aim towards. So if you're young, van julle is jonk, ek hoor die 16-jariges, 14-jariges, you want to already now have an emergency fund where you're putting money in to get in the rhythm. So that when you do start earning a salary or earning more money or making money through your own little business, that you're accustomed to having an emergency fund. When COVID hit, how many people's lives would have been different if they had a 3 to 6 month emergency fund? Wow. And an emergency fund is not, I'm going to take my wife out for dinner and I don't have money, so we're using the emergency fund money. I knew people in Kimberley, they would have no money, or they'd have 500 rand left, and it would make them so depressed that they would go eat out with it to make them feel better. Really? That's not what you want to do. So have that emergency fund. Assets, liabilities, investments. You can't really see clearly on here, but I just want to give you an example. Assets, remember, put money into your pocket. So it's cash savings, investments, okay? You've got real estate, property, okay, things like that. Liabilities is what takes money out. Loans. Wie het 'n lening by die tuckshop hierso? Doen julle lenings? Okay, ons het lenings by ons tuckshop gedoen en ons het, it wasn't my business at that stage, but I told the guys, don't ever do that. 'n Student betaal nie 'n lening. Okay, you don't have loans. You mustn't have credit cards. You don't want personal debt. Don't borrow money. Hey, don't borrow people money. I just want to just be careful with that. Be careful with that. As a Christian, the principle is give it. Okay? If somebody asks you, you rather say no, and if you feel that you want to give, you give it. You sow it. But you don't put the yoke of debt on a believer. Have I taught you something there? That's a good principle to live by. Okay? Unpaid taxes, things like that. Okay? You know what's my next account that I have? I have a fun account. It says fun/holiday. Because you know what I learned? That you are allowed to enjoy the fruit of your labor. Do you understand what that means? If I sit on my computer and I'm doing the income and expense statement for my brother-in-law's properties, that takes time. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for it. And time is a valuable asset that I have. So I am allowed to enjoy the fruit of my labor. So jy mag gaan uit eet after you've put the money in your emergency account and you've allocated the money to your fun account. The fun account is for eating out. The fun account is for holidays. The fun account is for the tuck shop, not the emergency account. You got it? All right. A tax account. This is where we all struggle with. You know, actually, there should be an account that says tax. And what you do is you know that this is my income. This is what I'm supposed to be taxed for it. And every month you put that money in there first. So that come the end of the tax season, you don't get caught off guard because it's there. Does that make sense? All right. So there's the next account that you have on your Capitec. The tax account. Then I want to say to you, no matter who's the youngest one of you? Is it 14? Matthew and someone else. 14, okay. You can start investing right now with 50 to 250 rand a month. You know, if you go put your money in at Pick n Pay's bank, Time Bank, you'll get 6% interest per year. If it's been lying there for 3 months, it moves up to 7% or 8%. At a time when they started, just before COVID, it was 10% if it's lying there for a while. That's a good interest rate. If you go invest at Momentum, they'll give you 7 to 9%. I want to show you something here. Now, you can't see it. You got your calculators? Right, take out your calculators. I want to show you something here. A lot of us can afford 250 Rand a month. Agreed? Okay, a lot of us can afford that. 250. Say 250 times 12. That's 3,000 Rand a year. Times 19 years. Times 19 years is 57,000 Rand. You got that? Okay. So if you were saving money in your shoebox, in your cupboard, 250 a month, for 19 years, you'll have 57. If you go to Momentum and you pay it in there, and the company is investing it offshore, and you get a 5% return, in other words, it's growing by 5% per year, you're going to get back 94,000. So minus 94,000. It grew by 37,000 Rand. You did nothing in the 19 years. You see that? That's how interest works. That's how compound interest works. You got that? Sorry, that's at a fixed rate. If it was 7%, your 250 would be 136,000. And so it grows. So I'm using a very simple example. I phoned my broker at Momentum. I said, just do me a quick little plan. And I told him about this thing. And that's what it looks like. Just 250 at Momentum is already making you money while you sleep. You see the principle? Okay. Gold. I was like, gold? How do you buy gold? How do you do that? That sounded weird. Now it's getting weird for me. And then I learned about something called a Kruger Rand. I was like, what's that? And they're like, a Kruger Rand back then was about 20,000 Rand an ounce. And I was like, but I don't have 20,000 Rand to buy gold. And then somebody said to me, but do you know that you get a 1/10 Kruger Rand? 1/10 van 'n Kruger Rand. It's the size of my nail. It's a little gold coin this big. And I was like, okay, where do you buy it? You buy it from SA Bullion. There are certain companies, mint companies, that actually sell it, and you can get it through the post. You can go up to Johannesburg and you can go buy it at places. And I was like, so that's how you buy gold. And gold has always been known for the last 6,000 years as a hedge against inflation. So in other words, at this moment in time with COVID and everything, people are saying that there's going to be an inflation problem coming soon. How do you protect your wealth, that your money doesn't decrease? You buy gold. That's called a hedge. It protects you against inflation. And I learned something new. And 1/10 at that stage was 2,300. Can you believe it? Now there's a difference. You see that? 'n hele Kruger Rand, 20,000 Rand, 1/10, 2,000 Rand. That's more affordable for some people. And that's how I started learning to invest. Instant steps that you can take. And we're going to close now. Iets wat julle nou kan doen om geld te spaar is cut back on spending. You don't have to go to the tuck shop and buy a pie now. Jou maag beheer jou dan. I'm pulling mine in. Because it's a problem. You need to cut back at spending. I used to have a friend back in the day. We always used to drink at one restaurant, and he always used to complain and say, but why are we drinking? Yeah, do you know how many bottles you can buy for the amount of money on your tab right now? Sy redenasie was reg, ons was net in die verkeerde plek in ons lewens op daai oomblik gewees. Okay? Cut back at spending. You don't have to spend money the whole time. Some people are addicts. When they walk in the mall, they've got to spend something. They've got to spend. Don't do that. Get a second and a third income. Okay, now it gets interesting. Remember I told you about painting? I started selling my paintings. I was like, I'm going to sell my paintings. Then it was the jungle gyms. And then we've got a bit of sheep, and you're selling sheep every now and then. And then we've got pigs that we farm with, and then you're selling a pig every now and then. And then you've got chickens, and you're selling chickens. And all of a sudden, you've gone from one stream of income to a second one, to a third one, and so on and so forth. Start earning interest, a good savings account. If you go to Capitec, I think Capitec gives you 6%. Time Bank, I know, is the highest, 7%. But for a youngster, that's good. Start saving now. Put 200 Rand a month away. I've got kids in my Bible school, our Bible school, that's getting 1,000 Rand a month pocket money. I know they only need 500 to survive. They can technically save 500 a month. I just want to go back to multiple streams of income. Guys, and I'll close with this, I think, yeah. Multiple streams of income was the game changer in our lives. Having more than one stream. And I think if a lot of people in COVID had more than one stream of income, it would have been the major difference between that breaking point. Okay. I think we will close it. I see everybody's a bit tired, and I think we'll end it at that.